Okay, maybe we'll get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me. At least it was working before there. If you do have any questions, you can put them out on the chat and we'll try and address them. Uh, you can mute your audio and turn off your video until the Q&A at the end of the presentation. That may give your experience, Microsoft Teams video experience a little better. The handout is out on the PC Club website, and Jim will put it in the chat maybe a few minutes after we get going here. So we'll get started. Our main topic today is identity theft in the dark web by myself, Tom Kreuzer. Thanks for joining on a nice day today. The agenda will first cover some club status, and then we'll get to our main topic. Future meetings, there is a MACSIG coming up this Friday, September 20th at 11:30, and this is Mike Griffin will be talking about the Apple September 9th Glow Time event where there were new announcements from Apple, a chance to buy a new iPhone and a new operating system, and then I'll talk more on the M4 CPU, Silicon. Our next question and answer is going to be October 1st at 11:30, and that's an online event. And our next general meeting will be Wednesday, October 16th, which will be a web only. We won't have an option to meet at 3M. We do that about every other month. And the main topic for that will be, is it fake or real news? We'll talk about how you can do fact checking, what role the internet and artificial intelligence plays in a lot of this, and a bunch of tips to help you stay safe and check out whether it's fake news or what's going on. Officers, Jim is our president, Linda is our vice president, Paul is our membership secretary, Paula is our treasurer, Chuck is our recording secretary, Mike leads the MACSIG, Andrew is our communication coordinator, my name is Tom, I'm a director at large, and we always thank the volunteers out there. Members old and new, you can pay your dues to Paul, $8 dues, and Paul will send out a notice when your dues are due. We don't do it from January to December. It's whenever you join the club, that's the month that you'll get your renewal. So everybody can have a different date there. Just a reminder, if you are changing your email, make sure and notify us because that's the way we keep in touch and send out notices for the meetings or links for the meetings here. You can always email your ideas for topics or talk to any of the board members. We're always looking for people to volunteer or to present on hardware or software that they use. It could be something at work, could be something at home. Or if you don't want to present, we do have a monthly eBytes newsletter, and you can write a sentence or two, or multiple pages for an article for the eBytes. Our website, I am recording this meeting, and we have our handouts, so the slides and the handouts and the recording are out on the website. And so if you ever want to revisit a meeting or miss a meeting, you can go out there at any time. We also have our deals section and our monthly eBytes newsletter. And this is the link. The link is also sent in all the emails that we send to people. Okay, let's get to our main topic today, which is identity theft in the dark web by myself, Tom Kreuzer. We've done this before, but certainly with all the news out now and some changes, we've updated it, and that's what we'll talk about today. It's especially been in the news the last month or two because there's a company called National Public Data, or NPD, They're a company that collects background information about people in the United States. And it was in the news because they had a data breach. And actually, the data breach happened earlier this year, probably in February or so. I think January or February. And the data breach is one of the largest, at least in the US, with close to 3 billion pieces of data. And this data includes names, email addresses in some cases, phone numbers in some cases, social security numbers, and address history. And it's especially damaging because since this was collecting information that's used by some of the credit bureaus and that, it has history. So potentially it could have up to 3 decades worth of history, and actually more than that, because as you'll see when I checked mine and did some other things, I saw the address. My address was out there for when I haven't lived in the house in close to 50 some, almost 60 years. So there's a lot of information that was exposed there. NPD, or the National Public Data, makes money by collecting and selling access to your personal data, mainly to the credit card companies and credit bureaus, also to employers like 3M, and to private investigators. The Social Security number and address history makes it possible for identity thieves or schemes such as fraudulently obtaining a bank loan, opening up a credit card, or even filing your IRS tab for your IRS tax refund. So this information is especially damaging, even though we've had thousands of other breaches before. And that's what I mentioned here. This breach is on top of the thousands of other breaches over the years, like American Express, 23andMe, Equifax, LinkedIn, T-Mobile, Xfinity, Best Buy. The list goes on and on. Well-known companies and many, the St. Paul Public School, the Minneapolis Public School, a lot of breaches. After every breach, most of this stolen data is sold on the dark web. And, excuse me, dark web, making thousands to millions of dollars for the person or group selling the data. I believe the figure that was thrown around for the MPD is they were initially wanting $3 million for the complete list. But now you can get it for pennies on the dollar out on the dark web for these various pieces. But it all makes its way out to the dark web, and it stays out there forever. We are all at risk. In the past, I'd emphasize that most of our information is out there. With the amount of breaches that we have now, I can safely say that almost everyone's data is out there. Before we talk about how to protect yourself, let's first do a little quick definition of what is identity theft. Identity theft is when thieves use someone's personal data to take over or open new accounts for financial gain. Personal data includes names, date of birth, social security number, account ID, email, bank account, credit card number, PIN numbers, passwords, address, phone, and lots of other pieces of information. Your personal data is always at risk and can be stolen long before you realize you're a victim. So just like this MPD breach, that happened first part of the year, but it really only made the news, and they only kind of let people know in August of this year. So these data breaches are happening all the time. Okay, how is your identity stolen? And we'll go into that. The number one way that your identity is stolen is data breaches. So that's where bad actors or hackers break into these companies and steal data. The second most popular way to steal your identity is through malware or spyware that gets installed either on your computer, on your phone, on the websites that you're going to, various different ways there. Third most popular way to steal your identity is through scams, emails, phishing, and spam attacks, where you click on something, you think you're going to your bank account, and you enter information, and it's really a hacker's website, and they're collecting your information. I should mention here, I used to have another bullet there where I talk about unprotected Wi-Fi, but unprotected Wi-Fi really isn't an issue anymore because 99.9% of the websites are encrypted now. So even if you're on public Wi-Fi, thieves aren't going to steal your data that way. So that used to be more of a threat. It isn't a threat anymore. Once these hackers or thieves have your data, why do they want your data, or what are they going to do with it? Well, the number one thing that they're going to try and do with it is open fraudulent credit card accounts in your name. Second most popular thing is they're going to use your credit cards or account numbers to make purchases. So if it was a list of credit card numbers that was stolen from a place like Best Buy, they're going to attempt to use those to make purchases. The third, they'll sell your personal information out on the dark web. And even though in some cases you'll see they're selling it for pennies or that, the fact that they can sell millions or billions of these records, there's a large amount of money to be made. Fourth way, it's less common, but it still is done, is to file fraudulent taxes or steal your tax refund. Now, I wish somebody would pay my taxes. That would be nice. The fifth is know your ID and password to try and access your financial accounts. And this is where, let's say there was a data breached on LinkedIn of information, and I can buy your password that you used on LinkedIn for maybe 50 cents or $1. Well, I can try and use that same password on your checking account or on your financial, because as much as we preach that people shouldn't be using the same password, people do use the same password. So passwords, when they are involved in a data breach, it can be very harmful and cause a lot of problems for you. Okay, next let's talk about the dark web. And so the dark web. The dark web is not one site at www.darkweb.com. The dark web is made up of three different distinct areas. So the first is the surface web, then we have the deep web, and then we have the dark web. The surface or clear web is roughly 4% of the internet sites that are out there that can be accessed without a password or any browser, and is regularly indexed by search engines like Google and Bing. So this is what we use every day. You're doing stuff out there. That's the 4% of the web there, the surface web. The middle part here is the deep web. This is 90% of the internet. It's the unindexed internet, and it usually requires a password to get into the different sites. The deep web contains mostly benign sites, such as your password-protected email account. So your email account out there, paid subscription services, medical records, company private websites, and thousands of other secure sites that you need a password or an account to get out to. So that's what's in the deep web. The dark web is this bottom portion, is the 6% of the internet used for illegal activity like illegal drugs, buying weapons, stolen property data. So when there's a data breach, you can go out there and you can buy, thieves and hackers can buy things. If I'm looking to buy a bunch of email address, I can buy thousands of email addresses or millions of email addresses for like $100. I can buy all this. You can also get counterfeit money. There's websites and forums which host illegal content like child pornography or white supremacy. So that's the part. That's the dark web. That's the bad part of the web or part of the internet out there. The dark web requires specific software, so you can't just go out to www.darkweb.com and you can't use your Chrome browser or Microsoft Edge browser. It requires specific software. It requires specific configurations of your machine, and it usually requires authorization to access. So even the dark web is protected with passwords and accounts. Dark websites are accessible only through networks such as Tor, which is an anonymity network, or I2P, the Invisible Internet Project. And this is because of all the illegal activity occurring out there. The thieves and the hackers and that do not want to be traced. And so it is highly secure for these thieves to use. Tor focuses on providing anonymous access to the internet. I2P specializes in allowing anonymous hosting of websites. Identities and location of dark web users stay anonymous and cannot be tracked due to the layers of encryption that are involved with connecting from a client. You can see this simple example, a client out here going out to a website, let's say, to buy some of that breached information. Well, it goes through multiple layers, and these layers cannot be traced, and so it's impossible for a government or any agency to shut it down or to trace who is actually using it or even where the server is really located. What is the dark web? Dark websites increase the value of stolen private data that they get in a data breach by doing what's called aggregating it with other public data that's available. So you may have exposed an address or a phone number or an email in one breach, and then you have some other information in another breach. The more that this data gets linked together and assigned to you, the more valuable it is. And that's the way they can increase the value of the money there. An individual's data can cost anywhere from pennies up to like $300 for a full set of data. This is just a small example of some of the data breaches and what they were charging for some of the information. So if I want to get a Gmail account, it's fairly cheap to buy a password and an account. I can get that for $1. But if I want W-2 information, that can cost up to $9. So there's you can go out there just like you go out to Amazon and buy things. You can individually buy accounts and information, or you can buy it in bulk. And if I wanted to buy 1,000 emails or 1,000,000 emails, I can do that. The buyers of this information are spammers, and what are called credential stuffers, who take usernames and passwords leaked from one site to try and log into accounts on other websites where the users have used the same credentials. Everyone has had data stolen. So again, in the past, I used to say most people have had data stolen, but nowadays it's everybody has had data. Even if you never had a computer or a smartphone, your data is entered in by the state of Minnesota and by your doctor's office and all these others. Well, so if you never had a computer or a phone, your data is still sitting out on servers out on the internet there. And because of these data breaches, your information is out there and has been stolen. You can use sites like Have I Been Pawned to check for data breaches involving your email. Currently, Have I Been Pawned searches its own database of the dark web and has over 14 billion accounts have been breached and are for sale. So let's take a quick look out there. So this is the site, Have I Been Pawned? It's very simple to use. All I have to do is put in an email address. I'm going to put in my own. And this is telling you, this is where that 14 billion accounts, email accounts are out there and have had data breached. If you're not familiar, in the world today, we have 8 billion people. Now we've had 14 billion pawned accounts, which kind of tells you that almost every single email account that's ever been created has been breached in some way, and there's data out there. So it's not uncommon. So this will I'll do the pawned. I'll check here. And this checked the dark web and it found this is free to use. So you can go out here as much as you want. It's free and it'll tell you some of the data breaches that your email account has been involved with. So this is listing a number of breaches. And when it lists the breaches, it'll also tell you, if it knows, the data that was compromised. In this case, an email address, an IP address, names, and passwords. LinkedIn, email address and passwords, and Twitter, and there's all kinds of. Now, what you won't see out there for me right now is you won't see NPD. And let's go back to the slides. Most of the NPD data breach does not have an email associated with it. So if you want to check to see if your data was exposed in this NPD breach, there's actually a couple of other websites that you can use. And so let's go out here. This pin tester is one. I can put in my name. Right, so I can select my state. And you have to put in your birth year. And I can do a search. And so this is, so using this site, this is telling me that it was involved in the NPD breach. It's showing me some of the information. Now it's blocked off. It's not showing me the full date of birth, and for the Social Security, it's just showing me the last two digits. But the breach involved all of your digits and all of your information. So this is just kind of for you to confirm that, yeah, this looks like my information. My information is involved out there. And they do have some information, some tips to help you here. And we'll be talking about the tips in the next step. But if you want to see if you were involved in the NPD data breach, you can check the Have I Been Pawned, or you can check these other sites. So you can check the have I been pawned, and if your email address was exposed, you'll find it there. If your email address wasn't exposed in the MPD breach, these other sites will let you check to see if your Social Security and other information from MPD was exposed. And all of these sites are free. You can go out and do it as many times as you want. You can do it for your family or friends or whoever. You can check, because obviously there's well, you saw the information that we put in. I'm saying here, your data is out on the dark web, and we all need to protect ourselves. So, with 14 billion accounts out there, with this latest NPD breach of our Social Security numbers and phone and birth dates and stuff like that, that is very serious, and we all have to protect ourselves. And here's the person here who's very concerned, very concerned. But your information is exposed. Uh, don't overreact. And again, we'll talk about ways to protect yourself and that. But don't be like this guy. It's kind of a fact of life that your information is now out there, and it's going to be out there forever. What we have to do is we do have to protect ourselves and accept the fact that this information is out there. So let's talk about some tips to protect yourself. Well, the first and the most important tip is to freeze your and your kids, because if you've got kids, your kids have Social Security numbers, and uh, thieves, identity theft, and hackers and that love to get kids' information because it's so easy to create new accounts using the kids' information. Because there is no usually accounts out there for them. It's very easy to create new accounts once you know Social Security numbers and addresses and phones and things like that. So what you want to do is you want to freeze your credit, and you can do that for free, and that'll stop thieves from opening accounts or taking out loans or other services using your stolen identity. You must freeze it at all three of the below credit bureaus, and you can unfreeze your credit as needed, because if when you freeze your credit account, if you then went to a car dealer and wanted to buy a car, usually and take out a loan for that car, that auto dealership has to contact the credit bureau, and if you've got your credit frozen there, they aren't going to be able to contact them. So in order for them to check you out and approve your loan and that, you're going to have to unfreeze your account after you've frozen it. And that's something that's very easy to do, but you do have to do it with these three credit bureaus. The three credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And I've listed the websites where you can go out and you create an account out there, and you then freeze your account. Part of that process to freeze your account is it'll give you codes and information on how to unfreeze it when you, let's say you were going to buy a house or buy a car or get a new credit card, out there, then you'd have to unfreeze there. So you do want to go out to all three of them. Don't just go out to one, because in this case, for the freezing part, each of the companies is separate, so you have to go to the three separate. And it doesn't cost you anything to do that. I do mention here, beware of fake websites or emails or telephone calls from scammers posing as one of these three services. So you may get an email that says, "We'll help you freeze your credit. Click on this." Well, they're scammers trying to collect even more information about you. So don't fall for that. Go out to each of these separately. They're listed on the handout. You can find it on the website. Use the links, but make sure you freeze if you haven't frozen your credit there. Okay. Second most important thing you can do is you can request one free credit report a year from each of these three credit services. So Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion produce a report, a multi-page report, and it goes through a lot of your information, personal information about you. It lists all the credit cards that you have. It lists usually all the loans that you have, car loans, house loans, whatever. Uh, you may, if you haven't looked at your credit report before, you may see credit cards out there that you haven't used in years, but you never froze it, or I mean, you never closed that Discover credit card. You just no longer use it. Well, this will give you a report of all of the accounts out there and different information. And again, all of this information is free. There's no cost to you. You can do it once a year for each of the three. So when you do it, you can look for unusual activity to see if new accounts have been created or there's information that you weren't familiar with this credit card. Maybe you should close it. Uh, and because there's these three credit bureaus, you could space out your three requests so that you check every 4 months from a different service. So you're not just doing it once a year, you can actually do it every 4 months. You can get an update of all of your information and all the cards and loans and information you have out there. So that's the second most important thing. After freezing your account, you want to check it and monitor it. Okay, this is another tip. Don't waste your money on identity theft monitoring services or insurance like LifeLock or McAfee Plus. So you've probably seen on TV the deals with LifeLock, and they try and put the fear of God in you that, oh, you have to pay for our service to protect your credit cards, and because there's all these data breaches, we're the only thing that'll keep you safe. Well, no, you don't need them. And everything that we're talking about is something that you can do for free. So why would you want to pay up to $40 a month to have a service that really isn't helping you? So they can charge up to $40 a month. But taking the tips that we talk about, you can actually do a better job than what these services are doing. The services or insurance hype fear tactics and make fake claims on how they can help you. They will they'll report that your information is out on the dark web, but again, we saw how easy it is to check the information is out on the dark web, and nowadays you just have to take it for granted that all your information is exposed to these hackers and thieves out there. So, but you can check and see. But there's nothing that these services can do to remove it because there isn't a magic button to delete it off of the dark web. Once it's out on the dark web, it's out there forever. Uh, and all they do is repeat a lot of the same tips that I list and that these other services list there. Many of the services brag about covering your loss up to $1 million. So LifeLock will say you're protected up to $1 million. Well, almost all identity theft victims get their money back, and you don't need any insurance. It may take you a while, and just like it take LifeLock months, if not a year or more, to clear your credit and to undo if somebody opened up a credit card in your name and started charging. You go through the same process whether you have their service or don't, and in the end, you don't lose any money, whether you have the service or don't have the service. Oh, let me go back here. Let's. I mentioned this. Let's take a look here, because my account and password were exposed in the Experian data breach a few years ago. Well, out of a class action lawsuit against Experian, they had to provide credit monitoring, or one of the options was to provide credit monitoring services. And I did take advantage of that. And let me go back here if I can. And so I get reports from Experian on their credit monitoring. So this is exactly like LifeLock or the McAfee Plus or anything like that. What they'll do is you'll get either a monthly report, or if there's special deal. This is an example of an email here. So Experian did send me a notice here saying that they found my Social Security number out on the dark web, just like we found it for free out on the dark web. And actually, I found it out on the dark web myself 2 months before Experian sent this to me. So this just recently came from Experian, August 29th. Well, I had checked out on the dark web and found it out there 2 months earlier. So I knew about it, and well, doesn't matter there. But so they say it's out there. Now, in this case, uh, they don't automatically do anything. So they aren't going out and freezing my accounts. They aren't doing anything. What they do is they tell you the exact same things that I've been saying. Uh, uh, check your credit reports, freeze your accounts, put a fraud alert if you actually do see activity, and things like that. So really, I wouldn't pay any money for this service, because they really aren't offering me anything that I can't do myself, and have to do myself even when I'm paying for this service. So as you can tell, I'm not a real fan of these credit monitoring services that charge money. Okay, let's continue on with some other tips. Another tip, and I can't stress this enough, and I've said it hundreds of times: create strong passwords that are unique to each of your online accounts. Change them routinely and never reuse old passwords. So you should have no two accounts using the same password. I highly recommend everybody use, I think I changed it on my other ones. You must be using a password manager, because in today's environment, I think the average person that I've seen, the number that I've seen, has 70 some accounts and passwords. And putting it in a notebook or in a spreadsheet or on post-its just doesn't work. And especially if you have to be changing them, they should be 12 digits, 17 digits of random characters and numbers. And you need to use a password manager. And if you ever do hear of a breach of any kind of a site where your password is, you must change it immediately. And these packages can make it easy to change it, and also track the passwords for you, so you aren't reusing and know what's set up. So when there is a breach and they do get a password, it's not like somebody immediately breaks into your accounts, your online accounts. It might be several days after a breach, or it could even be 10 years later. So just because you've never had your account compromised or that, you should be changing your passwords, and you must protect yourself. Also, we've talked about passkeys uh, being used instead of passwords on sites and services that support passkeys. And they talked about those. If you don't recall or missed the meeting, that was back in our February 2024 on online security and passwords for more detail on passkeys. Along with that is enable two-factor authentication, where you will need a secondary form of authentication, often a text message or a telephone call or an email or an authentication app to do that two-factor authentication. A stolen password is useless without that additional factor. This is especially important for financial, banking, and email sites. Email, a lot of people don't, or it doesn't connect with them, that the email is one of the most important accounts that you have because that's frequently used to reset your passwords if you ever forget it. And so you want that very well protected. Okay, some more tips to protect yourself. Watch your credit card and bank statements for unexpected charges or payments. Nowadays, every bank supports notifications, whether they're email notifications or text notifications, and you can set limits on how much the amount has to be, or things like that. So you have all kinds of control of the notifications that you get. This is an example. I have a Fidelity credit card. Whenever I make a credit card purchase, my limit is 0. I want to know whenever anything is charged onto my credit card, I get an immediate ding and I can see that my credit card's been. And if it's something that I didn't do, uh, I do a little investigation. So if you have automatic withdrawals or things like that, those are going to show up and you can monitor all of your transactions, whether it's charges or payments there. Another thing I recommend, go paperless when you can. Statements are securely delivered to you and stored right in your account and online and available for years. When you have a statement delivered to you in the mail, that's one more point that a thief could potentially steal it. And if you don't shred the information or just have it lying about your house or on your desk and somebody breaks into the house, they're going to have those account numbers and that information that they could potentially do some harm to your account. If you choose not to create an online account, you're actually more vulnerable than if you do create an account. So I've had people in the club and elsewhere say, I'm fearful of online banking or my financial site, so I don't create an account. And I'm sorry to tell them, but you're the type of person that is most likely to get your identity stolen and a new account created because online services and banks make it easy to set up a new online account using limited personal information that I could buy out on the dark web for $1 or $2. I could set up your account there. So it's best that you create your online account, you put in a secure password, you put in multi-factor authentication. Once you set it up, you don't have to use the service if you don't want to, but now you're the one in control of that account as opposed to leaving it open for a thief to create one in your name. Lock up sensitive documents and always shred or use certified document destruction services to destroy them. Okay, some more tips. Never give your personal information to somebody who calls you, emails you, or texts you if you did not initiate the request. So again, whether it's an email or a call or anything, don't click on links. Even though it looks like it came, let's say, from Wells Fargo, don't click on it. Go to your browser. You should have a bookmark in your browser to go out to Wells Fargo. Use that link. Go out to Wells Fargo and check your account. Don't use the link that you get in a text or in an email. Don't respond or click to links in a text or email or social media post from somebody claiming to be from a government agency, a known company, or a bank. that you didn't initiate the request. Again, and if it's a telephone number, don't use the telephone number that they list. On the back of your credit card, there should be a telephone number on there. Use that to contact your credit card company if you don't already have bookmarks set up or an account set up. Use a mobile-based payment system like Apple Pay or Android Pay. They're more secure than using a physical credit card number that might be stolen, especially in a data breach. So if I have Android Pay. If I use Android Pay and Best Buy has a data breach of their sales information for that day, the thief can do nothing with the number that was used to pay that because it's not my credit card number. It's a one-time use number that was used to transfer money from my account to Best Buy. It was not my credit card number, and so thieves don't have anything that they can reuse. PayPal can also be used. That's another way of isolating yourself and not exposing your credit card number potentially to some stores, some smaller stores or things like that. Keep your operating system and OS up to date. Delete old apps when not in use. On social media like Facebook, use built-in security to limit the personal information. Resources, Social Security information. If you do think that your Social Security number is being involved in fraud, Medicare fraud, or stuff like that, the Social Security does have a website to report it and to do things. As soon as you suspect your ID is truly stolen, you can take action to stop unauthorized charges and start recovering your identity. So if you suddenly see a new credit card out on your credit monitoring there, you can call this 188 number, or you can go out to this website to report fraud. This site does report to the 3 credit bureaus. It'll put a fraud alert on your account and shut down any more damage there. Then you should contact the departments of each of the credit cards that you're doing business with and tell them what's going on. Document everything by keeping copies of the documents, expenses, and records of your conversations about the theft. Then you can create a recovery plan. The Federal Trade Commission does have a website where it goes into some what you should do to recover from the identity theft. Okay, that's the end of the slide. So what I'm going to do is I will unshare, and if you do have a question, you can ask that. And also I'll check the chat here. Let me do this, and let me get back here. I'll put my camera on. We'll take a look in the chat here. Let's scroll up here. It looks like some good questions.
I was not able to attach anything today. I think I need to do a reboot is all it is on my side, but because I went from home to a meeting in a meeting room. I kept without shutting down my computer. I think I maybe scrambled a Teams setting. So
okay, the handout is out on the website and the past meetings out there, so you can get it. And if you do get the PDF file or look at the handout out there, you'll be able to click on the links that I was showing and stuff like that out there. Okay, Bob is asking, Jim, is there any way to save the chat like on Zoom? Unfortunately, because we are guests, most of our retired people anyway are guests. As far as I know, we can't save the chat and the information there. But this recording will be out there in the next day or two out on the website, so you can go back and look at it there. And actually, the recording will have the chat. So just like you're looking at the chat, you'll see the chat and the recording there. Yeah, and somebody mentions, or Jim mentions, you can copy and paste. So yeah, I guess that would be the way there. Group chat. Let me go down here. Is the MPD breach the reason that there was a required change to login.gov? No, the login.gov changes for Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Those have been in the works for years. If you were a veteran or that, they changed their systems a number of years ago, and the standard use of an account and a password is not real secure. So they've been making these changes for a number of years. Is there a secure way to request a credit report online, such as, yeah, the link that can you request a credit report online? All you have to do is go out to the one link that I mentioned, and that'll let you pick one of the annual credit reports from one of the three. So go out to TransUnion, let's say, go out there and request a credit report right now. 4 months from now, go out to the same site, request one from Equifax, and then 4 months after that, you'll do the third. So you can get your free credit monitoring there every 4 months by going out to the single website and requesting the monitoring there.
Do they send you a report then, or is it an online response?
It's a report that you get online.
Okay.
And they aren't sending it because the last thing you'd want is sending, because emails are not secure. So all this information, if it was just sent in an email there or as an attachment, that would be good fodder for an identity theft to steal your identity. So
you can't request a written, a hard copy report that they normally would send if you request by mail.
I'm not familiar. I guess you can look at it online. You're looking at it at the site there from the bureau itself, Equifax, TransUnion. You're looking at it there, and those sites are secure. And at those sites, it would let you print it. Again, I wouldn't recommend printing it because now you've got information that you've got to shred and store securely. So. But you can do some things there. I don't believe they'll send it to you in the mail because that's a huge cost for any company to send information out as opposed to just making it available on their website. Okay. Yeah, during the pandemic, you could request it more frequently there. People don't have to do it more frequently, especially once you freeze the accounts. If you freeze the accounts, that freezes the accounts. You should not see any new credit cards, any activity for loans, anything there, unless you unfreeze it and are aware of what's going on. So you should be protected there. Okay, Bonnie says, I have a number of government accounts, but the login.gov update seems to only apply to Social Security. Again, depends. There's different, if you have a VA account, if you have a Medicare account, things like that, you can start tying some of this stuff together. But I believe they give you 2 or 3 options of the different accounts to set up, but you do want to use the higher security that's in these other accounts. And as these accounts start supporting things like passkeys, it's important to start using the passkeys because that's going to provide you with greater security than any password can do. Okay, this is what the okay, credit report. Okay, I think that's it. Any other questions? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat there.
You had mentioned using public Wi-Fi, be it a coffee shop or something. The typical browsing is HTTPS and secured. What about email? Is that still plain text, or have they mostly gone to secured packages there?
Yeah, good question there. Yeah, and if we go back 10 years ago or so, 10, 15 years ago, most of the sites and services out on the internet used HTTP. They didn't use HTTPS. HTTPS encrypts it on the device, whether it's my phone or laptop or desktop or whatever tablet, encrypts it from the phone all the way to the service that I'm connecting to. So let's say I'm going out to my Gmail. It's encrypted from my phone all the way to Gmail. Anybody in between, whether it's Wi-Fi, anyone with a sniffer on an Ethernet cable, anything like that, all they're seeing is ones and zeros. So they can't see anything in between. And that's why I say it's kind of a fallacy that people will still bring up. Well, don't if you're at the Holiday Inn and they have an unsecured network, don't use it because somebody is going to hack your account. No, that's really, like I say, 99% of the sites, even the PC Club website. When you go out to the PC Club website, HTTPS. And so it's end-to-end encryption. Nobody's going to see anything in between there unless you have a Cray computer and decode it. If you're that paranoid, as a hacker, I could get into anybody's account given enough time, money, and energy there. I can get into any account, and unsecure Wi-Fi is the least of anyone's problems there.
Hey, but Tom, that only applies to web surfing and not to apps you're using, like messaging apps or text messages or emails. Isn't that correct?
Well, not really, because most of the apps that you use, so if I have a Wells Fargo app, that's using encryption. Also, it's a case of almost every app that does any function, when it's sending information to their servers up on the internet, it's sending it HTTPS. So it's, like I say, that's why your browsers nowadays and anything will put up a giant red flag and say, wait a minute, you're going out to a site that is just HTTP. It's unsecured, and what's going on here, because you probably shouldn't be going out to a site that is unsecure.
What about things like Outlook or Thunderbird or email clients? So that's not going through a web service for your email, but through a email client. That's not going to an HTTPS site. That's going directly to the email, isn't it?
It depends on most of the APIs now, or a lot of the APIs are using web services, and the web services do the encryption automatically. In the old days, encryption wasn't done because to encrypt it locally on my device used CPU, and then it had to send more bits of information. So when you had a slower connection years ago and you had slower CPUs, you didn't want to slow things down or cause problems. So a number of sites didn't use the HTTPS. And that's also true on the server. So I could put up cheaper servers and the servers would be faster if they weren't doing encryption. Nowadays, the CPUs are so much faster. The connections that we have between them are so much faster that it's better to have that security. And so 99.99999% of the stuff is all secure from point A to point B.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Say, Tom,
Yep.
have you ever configured and gone out to the dark web yourself?
Yes, I have. I'm a hacker at heart. So yes, I wouldn't recommend it for people because unless you really know what you're doing, you can get hacked yourself just going out there. But yeah, there are tools. The tools are free, and once you set the stuff up, you are you can go out there and you'll see various FBI cases or things like that where people trying to buy a hitman to kill somebody or trying to buy a gun. Uh, those are those are the fools who don't know what they're doing, and those are the ones that the FBI will get you in a sting. Because you're going out to the FBI's website to hire that hitman, and you don't know what you're doing. So,
But normally there's no real good reason to go to the dark web, right?
no, and that's what these other services like the Have I Been Pawned and those two links to check if your social security number. They're actually going out to a database, and that database is made up of information from the dark web, but you're not actually going out to the dark web when you do a search there.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? But yeah, if you haven't already, do the basics. Put a freeze from the 3 credit bureaus there, and do that today. Do it in the next hour, whatever. But do it, and if you have kids and your wife, and do it for the whole family there, because like I say, kids are the most vulnerable accounts because you can set up new accounts so easily if you just have a few pieces of information like phone numbers, like an address, like a social security number. It's just so easy to create some of these accounts and that. And as I said too, the paid credit monitoring services like a LifeLock, it does anyone else want to comment on that? What they like or don't like, or what they found with it? Like I say, I was very disappointed when I got the free subscription because of the Equifax data breach. The lack of really what they would provide or anything like that, other than an email saying, "Well, it's out there." 2 months earlier, I got an email from them that said they found my email out on the dark web. They couldn't tell me what breach it might have been associated with or what other pieces of data might have been attached to it. Well, that does absolutely no good whatsoever. It's kind of like saying you're a human on the planet Earth. Good luck. So there's nothing there. Plus, it's a case of my email address has been out on the dark web since the beginning of time with data breaches. And so for them to say that it just appeared out there, that didn't just appear out there. Like I say, I don't find them that credible. And the way to protect yourself is the freezing, is the monitoring, is the notifications, is having the strong passwords. You do those, and you've done as much as you can to protect yourself and lock down your account. So I'm not worried that my Social Security number is out there. I'm not worried that my email has been involved in these data breaches. It's a case of I've done what I've locked down my credit. Nobody's going to open up a credit card. Nobody's going to get a loan. Things like that. So that's the best that we can do today there.
Say after those 2 free years of credit monitoring occurred, do they hit you up for a subscription after that?
Yes, I believe they will, although I think it was 3 years, and so it must be coming up on about the 3 year for the Equifax when they did it. Because at the time of the class action lawsuit, if you were in, what were there, 10 million or 20 million people's accounts were breached, you could get the 3 years of monitoring for free, or you could potentially get up to $40 out of the cash settlement. And the $40 was dependent on how many people applied for the cash settlement. But I've known a number of people that, like myself, that got the monitoring and then were kind of disappointed because I was expecting them to provide maybe more detail about and faster detail on if there was a data breach. I want to hear it from them before I hear it from the trade journals or the national news. I mean, that would just make sense, but no, they weren't. They were behind the times, that kind of a thing. Okay.
A perspective on that. It wasn't a data breach, but it was a systems breach for a group I'm in, and I heard that initially FBI and CIA were working with them, and they asked nothing to be said until they had time to analyze the breach, the method of the breach, etc. And it's been months before there were any real announcements that came out on that.
Yeah, you're right. Certainly, there's some of that, and especially if it was caused by a virus or an operating system vulnerability there, they would want to give the vendor time to put patches in place and things like that before it's announced. But in general, it's a case of like I say, at least with Equifax. I'm not sure about LifeLock, but Equifax reported the MPD breach to me on August 27th. Well, I knew 2 months earlier about the MPD data breach and that my Social Security number was breached out there. And I can pull up my previous Equifax reports that said, oh, your account is fine. This is in July. This is in August. Things like that. So that's why I say I was kind of disappointed that I would expect if they're going to charge for something that they provide a service that really is of value, and I don't see a whole lot of value there. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thanks for joining. If you do have questions,
something pop up in the chat.
Let's see what was. Let's see what did we have here? Annual credit report. Is it worth running the free scan on Pen Tester? Scans and stuff like that. It's a case of, like I say, you can you can check some of these things, and these sites were set up to aid individuals there. As far as them actually providing something for you, I think we can just all assume that our data is out there. Now, the only thing protecting a lot of people is my name's unique. Kreuzer in the United States, so there's like 100 Kreuzers in the United States. So my data is easier to join and figure it out. If your name was John Smith, it's harder to join and to figure things out. So if you have a more common name, that kind of protects you a little more than my name. But even if you have a common name, you still want to do all the things to freeze your credit and monitor it and put notifications. So you still should be doing all these things, and that's the best way to really protect you there. And you do have to worry about scammers sending emails or purporting to be able to fix something or stuff like that you don't want to click and give them information. You'll notice none of these sites for checking your social security number are going to ask you for your social security number, because if they did and asked for that along with your email, I could sell that out on the dark web again. So you don't want to be giving away part of your identity to check and see if your identity is out there. Uh, and the one site did ask for a date of birth, but for most people, for free, I can go out to a website and I can get your actual birthday for almost everybody in the United States. So that's kind of public information out there almost. Okay, if you do have other questions or think of stuff, we will have the Q&A in October, and you're welcome to join that, and we can talk some more about it. But otherwise, get out, and if you haven't frozen your accounts, freeze them and start monitoring, and you don't have to spend any money, and you're going to be safe and protected there. Okay?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tom.
You're welcome. Stay safe.
Thanks, Tom.